Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you're watching this. This is Stephen Padernacht with the Padernacht Real Estate Team, and we are back with episode 3 of Inspection Matters. If you've been following the live streams and the recordings that we've been putting out, we focused on mortgages. We're now focusing on inspections. And the last of this series is going to be legal matters, where we introduce different attorneys just to talk about the various aspects of the business. And I think it's important for everybody to note this recording is for everybody. This is for experienced agents. This is for newer agents. This is for buyers. This is for sellers. The information that our team is trying to put out there is here to help you along the process of buying a home. And even if you're not looking to buy a home, you're looking to maybe sell a home, the information here is vital for you to know, because there's little tips and tricks that myself and the guests that I have on these shows are going to share with you that you're not going to get from the internet. You're not going to get from an article that you read. These are real stories and real experiences. So today we are joined with my co-host, Joshua Stone from Stone Home Inspections, and I am going to invite him in. Morning, Josh.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good myself. No complaints. The sun is shining.
Yes, it's actually a beautiful day out today.
Yeah, I know. Looking forward to it.
I think this is the best day of the week, though, because I think there's rain in the forecast next couple days.
Oh, don't say it. That's okay.
How does the rain affect your business? I mean, I imagine that me personally, I like it when it rains during an inspection because you can kind of see things that you normally wouldn't see. Do you get that a lot?
I get that a lot. Yeah, people, I mean, I always tell people it's not fun for us, but it's the best situation for the buyer. Obviously there's, it's more dangerous to get on a roof. You're not getting on a wet roof, but that's why you have to have the right tools for the job. So we get them their pictures and everything like that. But that's when we can see if there's leaks in the basement. We can see where the water's going, if there's water pooling. Yeah. So it's really the best time to see a home.
Yep. So again, like, the silver lining, so to say, in the clouds, if you have a rainy day during inspection, everybody, like, it's not the worst thing because you're going to get to see things that you normally wouldn't see.
Yes, absolutely.
How's business for you?
It's been good. We're on track. We're having record month after record month. So the business is booming. It's wild. So, I mean, it's just tough because, on our side, we get a lot of referrals from different agents. So, we do a lot more quantity than an agent would do quantity, but, the paycheck's a little smaller, but we do a lot of them. So
that's good. And your business, is it a lot of repeat referrals? Like, you're getting a lot of the same agents that are referring business to you time and time, or is it more newer business and newer agents?
I'd say probably 90% is agents that we've dealt with already. And then we get, some people who are just starting out or found us on Instagram. But yeah, we pretty much deal with almost the same agents, week in, week out.
Great. I mean, obviously, I use you basically exclusively. And anytime I'm talking to anybody, I'm like, and they're asking me about an inspector, I'm always like, listen, give Josh and Lisa a call, because I think if you try them, you're not going to be disappointed.
I appreciate that. And it's pretty much how it goes. I mean, I always tell people, even if it's a referral from another inspector, we've gotten that where inspectors get sick or they're overbooked or whatever, and they call us, and I never go to their agent and say, hey, listen, here's my card, give me a call. I'm always like, listen, I'll be happy to be number 2. So that number 2 slot is critical, so we'll take it. You can give out someone else if they're not available. Call us. I mean, we have multiple inspectors, 2 of them speak Spanish. So, we have a well-rounded group of inspectors.
One thing I would be remiss not to mention is I saw that you guys had recently posted that you hit, 900 Google reviews?
Yes, 900.
What the heck?
We already got over that hump. So now we're at 908. So
nice.
we're on our way. Yeah.
Nice.
2,000.
Nice. What is your if you don't mind sharing, what is your strategy on getting those reviews? I mean, I'm sure, listen, in those 900, I'm sure I left your review somewhere in there, but I don't necessarily remember being asked to leave the review. I don't remember. Do you have a process that you work? Because Google is so important, right? Like 900 reviews, Google's now going to start pushing you guys to the top of the list when people, search for home inspections in certain areas, I imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the algorithms, the SEO. I'm not that great on it, so I mean, I've tried to find us sometimes and like put in best inspectors, and they're always going to give it to whoever's paying the fee. So we do advertise on Google, but not that much.
Gotcha.
But yeah, people find us like they're going to see we have over 900 reviews. Like people have been in business for decades, they don't even have close to that. So, but yeah, really for us, the strategy is. I mean, you want to get the people to leave a review as soon as possible after the service. So what we did was we have an email event that goes out, basically just going over the inspection, thanking them again for choosing us. And, if you can leave us a 5-star review, leave a review there. And generally they do
Yep.
for the most part. And then in addition to that, I had my son who's 16, but you know how these kids are. I told him that I wanted to have a QR code that goes directly to my Google page.
Yep.
So all my inspectors have it on their phone. Someone could scan your phone with the QR code, takes you right to my review page. And so we'll do that too. We'll try and get them to leave a review right on the spot.
Perfect. Yeah, for me too. Like I'm way behind you, right? Like my goal is to get to 100. I think I'm at like 85 or so, and I've really just started taking seriously like over the past like 6 to 12 months. But it's obviously my transactions are fewer than yours. You could have probably 10, 20 transactions in a week. For me, it's a little bit fewer, but it's so important because like I've noticed that I spoke to a client the other day and they were a referral from an attorney that I had worked with in the past. And, she said, oh yeah, such and such, referred you. And then I went and I looked at your Google reviews and they were excellent. And that's what prompted me to actually call you right away. So
right.
It's amazing. So people out there, they don't really understand the power of it. I think, especially kind of like, in our age bracket and a little bit older, like how important it is to make sure that we're relevant on all of those search engines and especially on Google.
For sure. I mean, we have agents that will be like, oh, I gave your name, but they're hiring somebody else. And they're like, we're really not happy with who they're hiring. So, we'll just send me your Google page. I send it and then we send it over and they're like, oh, forget it. We're going with that.
Yeah.
So it really is a game changer. For us, it's been definitely a game changer. And it's not all about me. Like, it's really not all about me. It's about when you read our reviews, it's not just about Josh. It's about Angel. It's about Brian. It's about Pat. It's about Lisa.
Yeah.
So they leave reviews about the whole experience. How was it getting in touch with us? Like we have Danielle. We have a back office. We have people that are always answering the phone. Like you don't really go to voicemail. You get someone on the phone and you get your whatever request you have addressed immediately, whether it's scheduling or just getting pricing.
Yep.
So it makes a huge difference to, you can't be, it's hard when you're a one-man show and you're in a crawl space and the phone's ringing, someone's trying to get an appointment. Like I was that guy and it was really challenging, It also takes away, I think, from the inspection you're doing. So if I'm doing an inspection for you and now the phone rings, I'm like, oh, excuse me. And you walk off for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to do today, and we had talked about this previously, is I'd like to introduce a sample report that you had so generously shared with us, just so that way people could kind of get an idea of like what this looks like, what they can expect. And then maybe if you don't mind, just kind of running through some of the key highlights there and kind of how to read it. So I'm going to pull up the inspection report here. And I just like to note that this is a sample report, right, Josh?
Correct. This is an inspection we did a couple of years ago, I believe. Yeah, 21. So. Okay,
cool. All right.
Yeah.
So walk me through here. I mean, the first thing that I see here is obviously you got a picture of the property, and you know what? I'm gonna just let you take it away.
Okay. So yeah, this is the cover page of our report. Essentially, it'll give you the address, the date. We don't hold on to reports forever, so we do tell people, like, after 2 years, you can't expect us to have your report anymore. But it's important for our clients to know, once you get the report, maybe they want to print it out, or at least print out some pages of certain things. So we can go through the report a little bit more, and you could see that really the key is this page right here. This page, you could actually jump around. If you click on, like, let's say, the site, you can click right onto site. It'll take you right to the site page. But how I like to think of reports is kind of like a Carfax, right? If you're buying a used car, you want to have all the information on the car. This is all the information on your house. And a lot of inspection companies, they will focus in on only the defects. But how I've been doing my business all along is focusing on everything. Because if I'm only focused on the defects, and let's say they close on the house, like, there's like 3 months in New York between when we do inspections and when they close. Things change. But so we'll have people be like, oh, you missed this defect. I'm like, no, look, I have pictures of everything, the good and the bad. And that's why you can look at this report and see it's over 170 pages long.
Yeah, that is that's a bit intimidating. I got to be honest with you. So
yeah, well, I mean, listen, you're probably 30 pages of fluff in there, like, just, some, not only that, but the report summary has a lot of pages too. And the report summary has a lot of what you really need to know, right? The report summary will give you all the defects of the house. So when we mark something deficient, it goes into the report summary. So that's really the most important part of this report. But again, when you're dealing with people and their expectations and the fact that they don't realize that things change, it's really important that we cover ourselves and that we let people know that this is the condition the house was on this day. 3 months from now, they could have a leak and the ceiling could be brown, and they'll be like, hey, you completely missed this. We didn't. We have pictures of everything. So it's really good to document. I mean, I personally had inspections done, obviously, before I was an inspector, and I used to go back to my report all the time and just look at the changes that I made to the house and be like, oh, wow, remember when it looked like that? Like, so it's a really good way to just kind of keep tabs and almost create a list of things to do. And it's also really important. Number one thing is people need to read the report. Like, we literally had people, and I'm like, they'll call us up and be like, oh, you didn't tell me about this. And I go right to the page and I'm like, it's right here. It's marked deficient. Like, we told you the deck was not good. You need to have a contractor evaluate it. Another thing to keep in mind, we're not contractors. So when we tell you to have a contractor come and check it out and evaluate and repair, we expect you to do that. So if you don't do that, you can't come after us, the inspectors here.
So let me ask you a question. So and you can tell me what pages to kind of skip through a little bit, but the first thing I notice here is basically it's a glossary, right? So first you have your table of contents, and then you have the definitions. And I honestly, I've never read this page, and I'm just looking at it right now. So satisfactory at the time of inspection, functional, marginal, repair or replace, further evaluation. So so what are you doing here? You're kind of just this is basically just telling people, what your terms that you're going to be using throughout the report.
Exactly. So, a lot of times we're putting things that are marginal, which means that they are functional but need some minor repairs. Things that repair and replace, that means that they should really get it addressed. And then, the one at the bottom, I believe it's money. And I believe that if it's over $1,500 worth of a defect, we put money in there. So, it's important that people pay attention. Yeah.
There it is.
So it's really important that people pay attention to these things and read the report. I don't know if I was talking to you about it, but recently we were talking to an insurance agent about this, and he was saying that, basically like even walkways, if they're uneven, staircases, missing a handrail, the roof is old, like, they send out their own inspectors about 30% of the time, and they will drop you if you don't have these things.
Yes. So, I remember you telling me about this. Yes. Yeah.
So it's really important that you pay attention, because it's not just for you and your house, but it could be like a repair that has to get done, or they could drop your insurance. So, but yeah, just going through the report, like, you could see everything that's in there. We go through like how the day was, the temperature, Was it dry? Was it raining? So we know how that day was at that time. Like if there was no water in the basement and it was dry that day, then okay, it was dry, no signs of water. But things change again, right, when it rains. But we put the square footage in, how many bathrooms, how many floors, things like that, the age of the home. And then we have some more disclaimers that are there, basically going over some of the standards of practice as well. And just giving people, there's the standards of practice. So reading the standards of practice is kind of intimidating for people and also very limiting, giving limited liability to the inspector, because there's a lot of things that we're not required to test. So, and people don't realize that. Like, we're not required to test appliances, but we do, right?
Gotcha.
So there's a lot that goes into it, or a lot that we do that's beyond the scope of a home inspection.
Home inspections are not required to determine the condition of systems, the remaining life expectancy, the strength, accuracy. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's definitely important, and we want to make sure that our clients see that and know it. And we do send them out also an agreement to sign. So they have to sign their agreement in order to get the report, which means that they read
the terms and conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they read everything. So what we're looking at now is another service that we sometimes will get requests for, which is a walkthrough inspection. So again, there's 3 months sometimes in between inspection and closing. Things change. So why not have us come back for a smaller fee, run the appliances, run the water, look around for water again, those type of things. See if any repairs were made, right? If we find defects and the seller's like, oh, I'll fix that. Okay, where's the receipt? And let's see if they actually fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good idea.
So a good example of this would be like, hey, so we did an inspection when we got the accepted offer, went into contract. Let's just say 2 months later, we're about to do a final walkthrough and they were supposed to repair some stuff. Hey, Josh, do you mind coming back out and looking at this stuff for me and just seeing, kind of putting eyes on it?
Correct.
Instead of hiring, somebody to come back out, maybe an expensive contractor, just go back to you because you guys saw it the first day and now you're going to see it again.
Correct. So
makes sense.
Yep. And again, we're looking for receipts. Like we really don't want the homeowners, unless, listen, if they're licensed contractors, I guess fix your own house. But, for the most part, like we don't want them going out there and making these repairs themselves.
Of course.
Yeah.
So this right here, so we're still on the walkthrough inspection here.
Yep. Still on the walkthrough. Typically our inspections start on the outside. So we start with what's called the site. The site is basically the grounds. So we make sure that we walk the grounds pretty much complete around. We don't determine, like, we don't have a survey, so we don't know exactly where it starts and stops, but we will walk around the property and check things out, looking for buried oil tanks, looking for any sort of depressions that can cause problems, or trip hazards. We're even looking at the fence. Is the fence in good shape? If there's a shed, we're looking at the sheds. So that covers the site, the staircases, the walkways, things like that. Like that's always our number one.
One thing I want to note here is, so I see here comment number 12, the thermostat that was not functional at the date of inspection is now functional.
There you go.
So there's your proof in the of that it was done.
Correct.
Gotcha. And you just tell me when to stop. I'm going to just keep scrolling and you tell me when to stop.
Yeah, you can keep going. So yeah, I just was describing, what we do first and how I do my inspections is I treat the house like a box, right? So usually the house is pretty much a box, right? There's 4 sides generally.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing it, I'm bouncing around from section to section in my report, first doing some of the site work, like talking about the vegetation, site grading, making sure that everything's graded away from the house. And then while I'm there, I'm looking at the exterior. So I'm doing my exterior portion of the report as well. And then I'm doing, foundation, whatever kind of comes my way on that side of the box.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jumping to that section of my report. This way I do basically one swoop around the house and I'm ready to move inside. So
Gotcha.
That's how I go about it. But yeah, you can keep going down. This was a pretty big house. A lot going on.
That's is that a retaining wall?
Retaining walls, a lot of retaining walls, big retaining walls, which we're looking for that. We're looking for fall hazards from the top of the retaining walls, things like that.
Driveway, good condition, no significant notices. Here's something that food for thought, right? Underground roots, salt, snow melting products, and lack of maintenance are the biggest contributors to deterioration. So, I never realized this until I actually got into property management, but like you can't just go to the store and buy any sort of salt, like calcium and salt and all these different things. You should really do your research to figure out, because what it does is, as you noted right here, it could deteriorate your driveway, your sidewalks, and then it leads to a much bigger problem.
Yes. And, and then we also recommend that people have their driveway sealed, every 2 years or so. But yeah, I mean, it's even my garage, like you have salt on your tires, you pull into your concrete slab garage and it starts to eat away at the concrete because you have salt, but over time, you expect 30, 40 years, you're going to have some serious, some deterioration.
Yeah, for sure. So what's this big note right here?
Let's see.
So you got blue, everything was blue. The first thing I see is a yellow, almost like a hazard sign.
Yeah, so that's when we mark something deficient. That goes into the report summary.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So all of these hazards, like as I'm reading through this, I don't necessarily have to pay so much attention here, because when I go to the summary, that's when I'm going to get them all at one time.
Correct. Like, again, it is overwhelming, but if people just go to the report summary, like they're going to see the problems. Yep. But we really like, again, to highlight, the condition of the house on the day we saw it, because especially with a house like this that's 10,000 square feet or so, like things will change. Things like houses like this need maintenance. And so we want to document every little piece of it. And, also if you don't, I mean, when you're talking about a house of this size and this kind of price point, like you miss a defect, it can cost tens of thousands of dollars, So we really try and protect our clients.
Gotcha. So I'm way behind, right? Because you talked about the site, and now I'm only up to exterior, but that's all right. So I'm gonna just kind of skip through this a little bit here.
Yep.
I like all of the red notations with the arrows. Very helpful. I gotta say it's very helpful to do that. Now, you guys do that on site, like your guy will make a note of it and then comes back and then just writes that in, or do you have software that allows you to do that?
So yeah, we have in our software, we can basically make notes and have arrows and circles and things like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is really helpful. I mean, I've kind of got it down to a science where I can do it. Like I could write my narrative on the fly, but some of my newer inspectors, they're a little slower, and I always tell them, listen, at least make a note on the picture. This way you can go back and make your narrative later. But if you completely leave it out, you might miss it. So It's really important to put the arrows and circles and highlight exactly what's going on.
All right. So now we're up to garage, 4-car garage.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, no, not at all. Garage, interior structure of the garage. Roofing. All right. So roofing. So you do, correct me if I'm wrong, you have, you do drones for the roofs if you can't get up there?
If we can't get up there and it's safe to do so, we'll use a drone. A pole camera we have, which has not let me down. I have literally like a 25-foot pole with a GoPro on it, and like the thing just is awesome. But you have to be careful. I'm carrying a metal pole around that there's electrical wires and stuff. So if anyone's thinking about using a pole, I highly recommend that they be very careful, because I mean I've gotten caught out in the rain and I'm like came a few feet away from touching an electrical wire. So you can definitely hurt yourself or kill yourself walking around with a huge metal pole, especially in bad weather.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that tall.
Yeah.
All right. So foundation. And then I see this is this radon?
That's a radon test.
Talk to me a little bit about radon, because it's always, a hot topic, right? Just because, you guys offer it as a service. Talk to me about the importance of a radon test.
So a radon test, anywhere I'd say north of the Bronx, I mean, even in Riverdale, I think it's important to do a radon test. But so radon seeps into the house through foundation cracks. Generally, if your house is more than 5 years old, you should do a radon test. So, it takes some time for radon to build up in a house. But when you have an older house or a house that's settled, 5, 10, 15 years old, Now you're definitely going to have a few foundation cracks. And if your house has any rock ledge under it, the radon will seep up out of that and seep into your house. So radon gas is the second leading cause of lung cancer besides smoking in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And
But this is a natural gas that comes from the ground.
It's a natural gas that comes from the ground, and you can't smell it. It's just in the air. So it's a very simple mitigation system. So, and it does cost like $1,500 to $2,000 to put it in. It's basically just a PVC pipe installed into the slab with a fan, and the fan is constantly drawing the air underneath the slab up over the roof. So, even if your levels, because the limit is 4, right? 4.0 is the limit. But I always tell people anything 3 and above, like it's still kind of accumulating in the house. I would say 3 and above, you probably want to put a system in. But 4 and up is when the seller is generally required to put it in. So that falls under health and safety.
Interesting.
And, and we have 2 things we can do. So we have an electronic kit that we can set up. We have a limited supply of those, but I get instant results. I go and I pick it up and I get results immediately, send it right out. The other one is the traditional canisters, which are these metal cans we leave in the property for 48 hours, seal it up, goes to the lab, and we get results from the lab. So
is there a difference between the two? Like one being more effective than the other?
They're generally almost identical. I mean, I've tested them side by side. The results are extremely similar. But the canisters, the advantage of the canisters is that there's 2 of them. So when you have 2 canisters, one is basically doing a comparison check on the other, right? Whereas when you do electronic, there's only one. So if for whatever reason the unit is not calibrated, which mine are, you can get a false reading. But the electronic one is also pretty nice because like if you get like a shady seller or someone else and they're like, hey, I'm going to open the window and then I'll just close it before the inspector comes, we could find that out because it gives us a breakdown of the temperature by hour.
And and in your experience, what do you see people like taking advantage of the radon testing for the most part, or do people kind of skip that part?
For the most part, I'd say probably 75 to 90% of people doing an inspection, like they're not going to skimp on that. Like it's not going to cost you a fortune, but for peace of mind, like wouldn't you want to know?
Yeah, I think that especially when you start talking about gas, and especially if they have children in the home, I think that that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, more people, they're just so involved and worried about the environment. So we do a lot of mold testing when we're doing these inspections, just to make sure there's nothing going on in the air. Actually, if you're looking at the pictures that you just passed, you can see another tool that we use right there is thermal imaging. So
this one right here?
Yeah, if you can see the top left picture.
I do, yeah, 77-7. So thermal imaging, what does that help you with?
So a thermal camera will help us either detect leaks, right? If we have an idea that there might be a leak somewhere, there's a brown spot in the wall or something, we could put on the thermal camera. It's going to pick up like the actual area or whatever's leaking. It'll show it. It will show heating. So it picks up temperature differential. So what this camera I was doing at this point, I was checking the heated floors.
Gotcha.
So it's a great way to see, there's some areas here in Westchester called Heritage Hills. It's a condo development.
Yep, I'm familiar with it.
Their heating is mostly, I'd say, in the ceiling. So they have these ceiling panels. And the only way to really know that they're all working is with a thermal camera. So we always bring it to that inspection.
Gotcha. This looks like one of those old school movies, like where they're looking like Predator, when they're looking and they see the heat object over there,
Exactly. That's what it is essentially, but it's a great tool.
That's amazing.
And all my inspectors have it.
You got appliances here, dishwashers. I mean, dude, like the amount of the level of specifics that you have here is just really really amazing.
Thank you. It's kind of crazy to think at how some of these inspectors are doing the job because like one of my inspectors, he moved down to Tennessee and he was interviewing with another company And he told me, he goes, I've seen their reports, and they're not putting in half of what you're putting in. Like it's only defects. And I think that in reality, I think that that's not the way to do it. Like, I want to see if things change, like, and I also want to cover my rear end, like, I got to make sure that I'm showing you everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because
as an agent, I got to say, thank you for showing the good, because if you just sent me a report that just had everything that was bad in the house, there's no conversation with the buyers. They're just like, oh my God, look, the place is falling apart. But wait a second, you had 10 things that were not so good, marginal maybe, and then you had 130 that were above level. Like, I think that we need to just make sure you take that with grain. So as a realtor representing a lot of buyers, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Listen. I'm there to protect the clients, but I'm also there to kind of, like, they turn to us for guidance too. They're like, hey, what do you think? And at the end, we always get the question, would you buy this house?
Of course.
And that's really the only question we're not allowed to answer. So I can't tell you if I could buy the house. Like, there's no pass or fail, right? An inspection is not a pass or fail. An inspection is, here's all the information. Can you handle this?
It's kind of like when people ask me, how's the market?
Right. Depends on who
yeah.
Right?
Who's asking? Like, what is it? What market are we talking about? Residential, right. Westchester, the Bronx, so it's one of those things.
Right. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, if someone's like, hey, like, would you buy this house? And at the end, I'm like, listen, I didn't find anything really wrong here. Like, or I do go over the pros. I'm like, listen, you got a couple of defects, but number one, your roof is good, siding is good, your boiler's good. So I'm like ticking off all the boxes. I'm like, the big ticket items are good.
Yeah.
You just have a few things that have to be done.
The mechanicals. I always tell people, look at the bones, look at the foundation, check your boiler, make sure, the plumbing, electrical, foundation, roof, and your big ticket items, your boiler, your hot water heater, those sort of items, because those are the ones that are really going to cost you.
Yeah, 100%. So, people have to really pay attention to what we're saying, but, unfortunately, some of them get scared, when they hear they have a repair that needs to be made, but I can't control that, like, if they couldn't see the roof, or they just have no idea what a bad roof looks like, and we're like, listen, you need a roof, and they're like, oh, forget it, we're not going to buy the house. Like, that's why we're there. That's, we give you the information so you can go and work some magic and try and negotiate, right?
Yeah. Or go out and price out to see what it'll cost you. Like, look, all right, the roof is whatever, 10 years old. This roof probably averages about a 15-year lifespan. You got, maybe 3 to 5 years left, but you should, put some money aside over the next couple of years to kind of make sure you have that in case it does start going.
Yes.
All right, so we're up to the report summary. So this is basically where you take all of the marginal or all of the deficiencies and just put them in one section for somebody, right?
Correct. This is the part they really need to pay attention to.
Gotcha. So the first thing you're talking about is deterioration on the back staircase, right? Which is exterior work. Yeah. And then your the stone walkway should have the stone steps should have a handrail. Yes, very important.
Yep.
Bathroom, the upper level was in working condition with no leaks noted in the sink or shower. The toilet needs repair as it will not flush. The GFCI outlets were tested and operated properly. There was a window and exhaust fan for ventilation, and no mold or mildew was noted. Very important.
Very important, yes. And also,
so even though it's a deficiency, and I don't mean to cut you off, but even though it's a deficiency, like, it's telling you exactly, like, the big stuff, the mold and mildew, there's nothing there. Your toilet doesn't flush. Like, right. You gotta just.
That's it. It's a minor repair.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're telling people, like, but that has to be fixed,
For sure. Fire suppression system, the pressure gauge reads 0, which means it's not functional. Okay, so that could be a big ticket item, but it's something to short. Like, if I'm reading this report as an agent, like, this is something that I'm definitely pointing out. Like, the toilet, I'm just like, listen, you can get somebody to come in and fix the toilet, but fire suppression system, that's important. You got to, there's companies that come out and monitor that stuff. So you got to make sure you find out who their contractor is and who they have, I guess, contracted to come out and do this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, those are things that are beyond the scope, like fire suppression, elevators.
Yeah.
You know, like we could ride the elevator, but I can't tell you, you know, the mechanicals of it.
Yep.
So
Interesting.
But yeah,
All right.
this house did not really have too much wrong with it. This house was really, really nice, but
Very, very well kept.
yes, it was. It was
Very well kept.
Very interesting people. But the crazy part about it, especially with inflation, is that house was, I believe, 17 years old at the time when I inspected it. So it's almost 20 now, or it is 20 now, and the amount of money it would take to, number one, build that house now probably is at least double the price.
Yep.
And that kind of affects a lot of different things too. Like you're getting a 20-year-old house that is $3 million, let's say, and you know you have 5 central air units. Like each one could be $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah.
So those are all big ticket items. You know, like that's why if you skip inspections, like I don't even have words. Like things are so expensive now. Like spend the money. You know, we had a client recently who called us up and they said that because of our inspection report, we saved them $50,000 off the price.
There you go. Huge.
$50,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I'll
especially
trade you $800 for $50, no problem.
Especially if your home, you know, the average home in our market is anywhere from like, you know, 500 to 800,000. So you're talking about that's 10% of the value of your home that you're saving by spending $800 to get the inspection, or whatever the number is, depending on the square footage or whatever it is.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, Josh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will surely be sharing this recording, and it was a lot smoother this time with no internet glitches.
Yeah. Very nice.
But again, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to having you on the next episode.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And remember, for your protection, get a stone home inspection.
Haha, my man.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.